Okay, let's dive into this one. Picture this.
Ah,
A brand new iPhone 16 right out of the box.
okay.
And the teenager who gets it just completely loses it. We're
Oh.
talking like throw in the phone.
Wow. Okay.
Because it wasn't the Pro Max 1 TB version they wanted. And this actually came from one of you listening.
Yeah, I bet that sounds familiar to a lot of people. It really kind of taps into a major challenge for parents today, doesn't it?
It really does. What seems like it's just about a phone, it opens up all these deeper issues.
Absolutely. It's a snapshot of some fascinating dynamics at play.
Exactly. And that's what we want to get into today. This isn't just some, anecdote. It's a way to look at our consumer culture, maybe some entitlement issues.
Right. And the expectations that build up.
So our mission here is to unpack what's really going on underneath that kind of reaction, and then offer some, hopefully, thoughtful strategies.
Strategies based on, psychological insights and real-world examples parents can relate to.
What's so interesting is how these big reactions tie into where teenagers are developmentally. Like, remember Jessica's story? Her daughter, 15.
Oh, yeah, the AirPods situation. A total meltdown over getting the wrong kind.
And Jessica was working overtime just to afford the basic ones. She was just understandably floored by the ingratitude, or perceived ingratitude.
And while these are tech examples, you see this with clothes, shoes, all sorts of consumer stuff.
Totally. It's often not really about the specific item, is it? It feels
Yeah.
like one big factor is this idea of social currency.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. For teenagers, the right brand, the right model, it can feel like it determines their social standing.
Like there's this real fear, maybe. Fear of being left out or even, made fun of if they don't have the right thing.
That social piece is just incredibly powerful during adolescence. Fitting in feels paramount.
And material things become these really visible symbols of status, unfortunately.
Which then gets tangled up with identity, right? They're figuring out who they are.
Yeah, it's a messy process.
And in that insecurity, they might sort of latch onto possessions as a measure of their self-worth or whether they belong.
And we also have to remember, their brains are literally still under construction.
Yeah, crucial point, yeah.
Especially the parts that handle big emotions. So that impulse, throwing the phone, it's not always a rational, thought-out response.
Exactly. The wiring for managing disappointment, for regulating those intense feelings, it's still developing.
Which can make the reaction seem, well, wildly disproportionate to us.
And sometimes, let's be honest, that kind of drama can also be a way of testing boundaries.
Ah, right. Especially if maybe it's worked before, pushing limits.
Could be. If a big reaction has gotten them what they wanted in the past, consciously or not, they might try it again.
Okay, so there are these complex layers underneath. The social stuff, identity, brain development, testing limits.
Right.
So thinking practically now. In that moment, the phone goes flying, or even afterwards. What's a constructive way for a parent to actually respond?
The immediate reaction is so key. There's David in Chicago. Similar thing with his son.
Okay.
His first instinct was probably to yell back, right? But he consciously decided not to engage right then.
He paused.
Yeah, he just said something like, "We'll talk about this when we're both calm," and literally took a 30-minute break. Walked away.
That takes some self-control, but I can see how that would de-escalate things.
It really can. It stops that immediate emotional spiral. You're not adding fuel to the fire.
So stepping back, what could you actually say in that moment, besides just walking away?
Something that acknowledges the feeling but not the behavior. Like, wow, I see you're incredibly upset about the phone.
Okay, validate the emotion.
But throwing it is not okay. Let's talk properly when we've both cooled down. Something like that. Direct, empathetic, but with a clear boundary.
I like that. It hits both notes. Okay, so things cool down. What's next? Jump straight to punishment.
Not necessarily. I think the next crucial step is actually listening. Like, really listening.
Or for consequences.
Yeah. Try to create a space where they can actually tell you why they felt so strongly without you jumping down their throat.
How do you do that? Ask questions.
Open-ended questions are great. Help me understand what was so important about the Pro Max version specifically.
Because it might not just be, I want the best.
Exactly. It could be about fitting in, like we said. Or maybe they have a genuine interest, like photography, and they think they need that specific camera.
Or, this is a big one, maybe they just have zero clue about the actual cost difference.
That's often a huge piece of the puzzle. They just don't grasp the financial reality.
Right.
And once you understand their why, then you can start bringing in some context, gently.
How do you do that without it sounding like a lecture?
Well, Sarah in Portland had a pretty smart approach. She's a single mom.
Okay.
She had her daughter figure out how many hours she'd need to work at her part-time job to pay for the upgrade herself.
Oh, wow. Making it tangible.
Super tangible.
Yeah.
Suddenly, it wasn't just a number. When the daughter calculated, it was like 2 weeks of work.
Perspective shift.
Big time. So you could do something similar. Okay, the price difference here is, say, $400.
Right. That specific phone difference.
Let's think about what $400 means. How many hours do I work for that? Or what else could our family do with that?
And then compare the features. Are these extra features really worth that amount of time or money?
Exactly. It grounds the whole conversation in reality, makes it less abstract for them.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So de-escalate, listen, give context.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get to the tricky part. Consequences.
Yeah, consequences are important. Actions need to have outcomes. Otherwise, the lesson isn't learned.
So for throwing the phone.
Well, a logical consequence tied to the behavior might be losing the phone temporarily.
The new one they just threw.
Maybe. Or just phone privileges in general, say for 2 weeks. The point isn't just punishment. It's time to reflect on how to handle disappointment better.
And the key is delivering that consequence calmly, right?
Yeah.
No anger, no long lectures.
Consistency and calmness are crucial. It shouldn't feel like parental revenge. It should feel like a natural outcome of the choice they made.
Okay, calm, consistent consequences, and then, is that it? Or is there more?
I think it's vital to create a path forward. Frame it as a chance to learn and grow, not just a punishment.
How does that like?
Think about Michael in Atlanta. He set up a matching system. His daughter wanted an upgrade.
Okay.
He said, okay, you earn half the cost, I'll match it.
Ah, putting some skin in the game.
Exactly. And not only did she eventually get the upgrade, but she developed this real appreciation for what things cost. She even started wondering if the upgrade was worth all her effort.
That's a fantastic outcome. So it's about them contributing somehow. Chores, job, savings.
Yeah, finding ways for them to participate financially builds that understanding of value. In a way, just giving them things never does.
So this whole difficult situation, the phone throwing,
Yeah,
it actually becomes a springboard.
it really does. A springboard for teaching much bigger long-term values that go way beyond this one incident.
Right. Because if you only deal with the outburst, you miss the chance to build something lasting, like gratitude.
Yes, genuine gratitude. Research, like from the University of California, actually links gratitude practices in teens to more happiness and less materialism.
All right, so how do you cultivate that? It sounds a bit abstract.
There are practical ways, like a simple daily ritual. What are 3 good things that happened today? Share them as a family.
Little things count.
Definitely. Or regular volunteering, getting involved in the community, even perspective visits.
What are those?
Could be visiting a shelter or even watching documentaries about different living conditions, just things that broaden their horizons beyond their own bubble.
Shifts focus from what they don't have to what they do have.
Precisely. And alongside gratitude, there's financial literacy. Huge piece.
Oh, absolutely. That example of Emma doing family budget meetings sounded brilliant.
Yeah, open up those conversations about money. It shouldn't be taboo.
Oh, so involving teens in age-appropriate ways. Talking about the family budget.
Helping them make their own simple budget. Using financial apps, maybe. Explaining basic concepts like assets versus things that lose value, like a phone the minute you buy it.
Essential life skills, really. Not just for managing phone envy.
Totally. Skills for their whole adult life. And the third big piece here is fostering emotional resilience.
Ah, yeah. Because life is full of disappointments, big and small. They need to learn how to handle that feeling.
And not by throwing things.
Right. How do you teach that?
Instead of just saying, don't be upset, help them develop actual coping strategies. Maybe create a disappointment plan together.
A plan? Like what?
Concrete steps they can try when they feel that disappointment rising, like take 3 deep breaths, write down the feelings, go for a quick walk.
Okay, physical actions.
Or perspective-taking questions. In the grand scheme of things, how big is this? Stuff like that, giving them tools.
Tools, not just rules. I like that.
So you're equipping them to navigate those tough emotions constructively.
So, looking at the big picture, these conflicts, these moments that feel so frustrating, they're actually really valuable teaching moments.
Hugely valuable. How we handle the thrown iPhone today genuinely shapes the kind of adult they become tomorrow. How they handle relationships, work stress, inevitable setbacks.
It's true. Beneath that demand for the Pro Max is just a young person trying to figure things out, find their place.
Exactly. And responding with calm, clear boundaries, but also with understanding and guidance, that's the real gift.
It reminds me of that quote from Dr. Lisa Peterson about teaching kids happiness comes from within, not from stuff.
Such a powerful idea. That internal sense of worth is priceless, far more than any gadget.
So yeah, this whole iPhone drama, it's not just a parental headache, it's a genuine opportunity.
An opportunity to instill values like gratitude, financial sense, emotional strength, things that lead to a more fulfilling life overall.
A life less driven by just wanting the next new thing.
Exactly.
Okay, so if we boil it down, the key takeaway really seems to be that responding thoughtfully, even when you're faced with what feels like pure entitlement, that's how you nurture these crucial long-term values.
Gratitude, financial smarts, emotional resilience, they're all connected.
Which leads to a really good question for you listening to mull over.
Yeah.
Think about that line in your own life between providing for your child's actual needs versus their wants or desires.
Especially today, in this super consumer-driven world, it's a blurry line sometimes.
How do you walk that line in a way that fosters appreciation, responsibility, not just expectation?
It's a tough balance.
Definitely something to sit with. Maybe just think about one small step based on what we talked about that you could try this week in your own family.
A little experiment.
Yeah, something small. Anyway, thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.